the Rangers Journal now.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Rangers Journal. My name's Kevin. I'm going to be the host for this evening, and tonight we are going to be just having a match preview on the build-up to tomorrow night's game. I'm joined by the lads here. Ricky, we'll start with yourself. How are you doing, mate?
I'm fine, Kev. Thanks. I've been doing fives earlier on today, so I'm feeling quite refreshed. Looking forward to tonight's discussion about tomorrow night. It's been doom and gloom, I think, since Sunday. Negative press, negative. I think we're all going a little bit down, and tomorrow night's maybe an opportunity to try and lift that little bit of negativity about the place. But by God, I need to win tomorrow, don't we? I think. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Good to see you, Doug. Ross, good to see you, lads.
I'm enjoying the optimism, Ricky. Hopefully you can shed some of that throughout tonight's pod. And Ross, how about yourself, mate? How you doing?
I hope I get some of that optimism off Ricky, because I'm not feeling the same way, to be honest with you. I'm good. I'm all right, though, lads. Hopefully a performance tomorrow night might just take a little bit of the negativity away, and I think that's all we could really ask for, is win the next game.
Perfect. A good balance between optimism and not so optimistic will be probably a good balance for the tonight. And last but not least, Doug, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. Ever the optimist, so staying positive for the time being. Good.
And Ricky, I wish I had your energy. I'm no long finished work and I was rushing home, grabbing a McDonald's on the way home. It's been a mad one to try and make tonight's half 8 pod. Right, guys, let's get cracking. Obviously, we play FCSB tomorrow night. Ricky, we'll start with yourself. Just you're obviously hoping for some optimism. How are you feeling at the moment, just with all things going?
Well, I've probably been as low as I've been in a long, long time after Sunday. I came on the pod Monday night, and I was probably the biggest negative person out there, and probably rightly so. But we cannot keep on continuing in that vein. I think there's a lot of people need to sort of stand up and be counted. Philip Clement being one, and I know he got roasted today in his presser. And obviously the boys trying to stand up for himself, trying to stand up for his position of play, his tactics, his team, everything. And that's all you really want to hear from him, I suppose. But tomorrow night will be the test of where we've came from Sunday. On paper, Steaua Bucharest, or the old Steaua Bucharest as we know it, they supposedly came with a weakened team. Whether that's the case, I'm not too sure. They did have a game on Sunday against one of the big rivals, Dynamo Bucharest, away from home, and they came away with that with a 2-0 victory. And they're playing their other rivals, Rapid Bucharest, this Sunday. So sandwich in between that is Rangers at Ibrox. Hence why the reason why their chairman's decided they ain't going to be sending their full first team. That will remain to be seen until tomorrow night, and we'll see what team turns out, of course. But if Rangers need to play somebody on a Thursday night to try and lift the spirits, then who else could we pick over Steaua Bucharest for me? Having said that, they have played 2 games and they've came out victors in both of them. They had a 1-0 victory away from home in Greece against PAOK Salonika, and they beat Riga at home 4-1 in the original match. So they've got maximum points. Will they keep and maintain that with 9 points tomorrow? It really all depends how we play. I think we all know how the game's going to start as far as formation is concerned. But if we can put in a Malmo performance on a Thursday night, albeit at home, we will win the game.
Perfect, Ricky. Thank you. Again, I like that you're keeping up with the optimism, and hopefully that continues all the way through. And Ross, how does it feel to be a Rangers fan at the moment?
Challenging, I think, is the word that's been used. It's been a bit of a season that started with a bit of trepidation. I think we knew it was going to use the term transitional. I think we were expecting. But I think with the kind of early disappointments of the draw at Tynecastle to start it off, the disappointment against Dynamo Kiev after a decent result in the first leg, the bit of a humbling, to be honest with you, Parkhead, it seems to have just kind of went down the way a wee bit. But like Ricky says, you could probably pick a an easier, not so much a more difficult game, but like a team, they say they're focusing on their big games domestically, so they're kind of taking this as a bit of a free hit. If they get a result, that's a bonus for them, but if they get beat, it's not a disaster. Whereas for us, anything less than a win, I think, really puts more pressure on a manager that's already under a considerable bit, based on the questions he was getting asked at the press conference today.
Definitely. And Doug, yourself, without going into it, because I know the boys have done a post-match from the weekend, but how are you feeling off the back of the result at the weekend?
Yeah, it was just really disappointing. It was an opportunity for the team to try and shake off some of the bad habits that we've developed over the last couple of years, but unfortunately, they sailed into the bad habits rather than anything else. And I think that's that's what's left fans most frustrated. I think not so much. Well, I mean, yes, we squandered an opportunity to make up the ground, but the most galling part was just that yet another rebuild, yet another manager, but yet again same mistakes and same outcomes that have been happening over the last couple of years. And folk were really hoping, I think, that we were going to start to see the end of that kind of thing. So. I say I'm still maintaining hope. I still consider it to be pretty early days in the Clement regime. I don't often put much credence into like the first few months when a manager comes in mid-season. So I'm kind of judging him from the start of this year, which means I'm not giving him the credit for that time either, because that was his better period as it's turning out at the moment. But we're asking a big job of him, so I'm willing to keep pushing forward and try and hope that we will start making steps. But he needs to start developing the ability to grind out wins, because that's the only thing that's going to keep him in the job until potentially he can get a few more players in, make a couple more changes, and presumably have the team that he wants in full. Because I certainly hope that he doesn't think he's got the team he needs in full right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And Ricky, just before I move on to yourself and my next question, I'm just going to take a wee moment to say that we are proudly sponsored by Premier VPN. So if you are looking for a safe and reliable VPN, head over to the website, which is premiervpn.net, and the guys can get you signed up. And Ricky, coming to yourself and going into tomorrow's game, where do you think Rangers can get success tomorrow against FCSB?
I think it's a kind of difficult one, Kev, because I look at that Malmo game, and as Ross has already alluded to, but I mean, even against Lyon, when we played Dynamo, the Ukrainian side, but we've played quite well, and certainly in major periods of these games, and never really got the results it's merited. Apart from the Malmo games, if we can get anything like the same sort of a passion, impetus, the desire, everything that goes along with with the Ibrox crowd, that sort of fires these lads up, and we get that kind of fast flowing football. Because this, how many times do we see, or do we say, I'm not going to pick in players, but Sunday, for an example, when you get it in the middle of the park, and the first thing Diamandi does, whether that's because he doesn't have any trust in the in Dessers, or whether because the number 10 wasn't actually there, it always seems to come back. And then what happens against these teams is all of a sudden they reset, and that actual advantage has then gone. And I think that's one of the reasons why Rangers are becoming so boring, because they just let a lot of teams just reset. And it's it's 11 against 11 again, instead of sort of taking that opportunity when the ball breaks down to a quick pass out to the wingers, or whatever it may be. But we need that fast ball from the likes of Diomande, Barron, Raskin, whoever it's going to be in Park tomorrow. The ball's got to go forward when the opportunity arises. And the number 10 needs to stay there as the number 10 if they're going to play with Lawrence. Let him build the play. We can't afford Dessers to do it because he can't hold the ball up. And unfortunately, I think Dessers is going to start tomorrow. No doubt we'll come on to that later on, Kev. But, so for me, we need to be a little bit more faster, director, and just just be a little bit more adventurous. You know what? We've got good players, and I just don't know whether they're all petrified of making mistakes or because of the system that they're trying to fit into. We don't know because we're all struggling to understand what system is actually getting played. And I think that's half the problem. It's like Beale-like, and that's why Clement for me is under a lot of pressure at the moment, because if he doesn't start turning this around, the fans will definitely turn in their droves.
Yeah, and obviously you're highlighting some good points in terms of what you would like to see more from players. Do you think some of these issues that we're seeing, that sort of slow, predictable play, some poor decision making, do you think that's coming down to Clement, or do you think that's coming down to the players themselves?
It's got to be Clement for me, Kev, because I believe the recruitment has been the best recruitment we've had for a few years. I definitely think that the players that have come in are in the plus side rather than the negative side. I just don't think we're getting the best out of them, mate. And whether that's how they're coaching them during the week, how they're setting up during the week for the next game, I'm not too sure. What goes on at Auchenhowie, but it just seems to me as if the players are petrified to go and do their jobs. They just don't want to lose the ball. And as I've said many times, we at the moment, especially domestically, and I would say especially domestically, we're easy to play against. I mean, an opposition manager going to work on a Monday, like that. We're playing Rangers. We know exactly how they're going to come at us, and they'll just set up and play against Rangers on a Saturday or Sunday, it may be, and hope for that break as it happened against Kilmarnock. Now, I know a lot of people have said in the mess and in the media that Kilmarnock played well. I don't care if Kilmarnock played well. I don't actually think they played that well at all. We were just rank rotten, and we shouldn't be rank rotten against Kilmarnock. I don't care about the pitch. We should be a lot better prepared for a game like that, and we just weren't, and that's what's so disappointing for me, Kev.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And Ross, RFC's posted there, Clement's got them playing like robots. Do you think that the current setup or the current formation that Clement has played since coming in suits the current batch of players that we've got at the moment?
Clearly not, because if it was, then you'd be getting better results, better performances. I think that he seems to be adamant that he's got this system. Excuse me. He's adamant of this 4-2-3-1 system with a number 10 that doesn't play in the 10 system, doesn't play in the 10 position, sorry. We've got Cyril Dessers, as Ricky alluded to, that he can't hold the ball up, so you need to have runners beyond him. Why we're playing Lawrence 15, 20 times 25 yards further back, what are you expecting to get from him? He can't flick the ball on to nobody when the guy's standing miles away from him. And then obviously, in terms of the two midfield runners, they can't go beyond him because they know that if he can't hold the ball up, so he'll lose it, and then they're going to be caught out of position. It's just, the system's just not working at all, and that part of it's down to the manager. I don't think the players try hard enough, but in terms of the system, the manager needs to change it for the tools that he's got, as opposed to trying to fit guys into a system just because he likes it. It's not working. We've been talking ourselves in other chats, and everybody's probably been talking with their friends about how to make it better. If supporters can see it, why can't the guy who's getting paid a fortune see it?
Yeah, absolutely. And James Tony said we've seen the same formation from the last three managers, and it doesn't seem to work in Scotland, which I probably would agree with. I think slight difference when Gio was in charge. I think he quite liked the sort of wide wingers, whereas it looks like Clement likes that sort of, his wingers sort of dropping inside and sort of changing within the formation. But the similar idea seems to be pretty slow and predictable in the build-up and leading to a lot of crosses into the box. If Clement, which it does look like it is going to stick with this formation, as he seems pretty stuck in his ways, what would you think that he's missing right now to make that formation work?
I think the thing about tactics is, it's never as simple as just the formation isn't good enough. It's always a combination of things. So, like, you could play this formation and it work perfectly well if you've got players doing the right things within that formation in terms of their combinations, how they approach the play, are they pressing, are they not, and other things that combine with the formation. I think we've had a very similar formation since we've returned. The main difference being kind of like what you pointed out in terms of Gio. The main difference has been how we've treated the kind of two wider attacking players. Have we had them traditional wide wingers like Gio did, or if we had them more inverted, which was more like what Gerrard would do. And we saw success in both of those with them in and out in different ways. But I think the two key things that strike out for me is as we've touched on already, is lacking a couple of key players. I think the two positions I think that most people are pretty unanimous on are the 6 and the striker, and then the 10 is kind of close behind there. The 6 I think is important because the other issue for me in terms of how the formation falls down is that there's too much space between the key sections of the team. So between the defence and the midfield, we tend to have this gap that opens up when the team presses, and then there's a gap between Dessers and the other attacking players. And these are two key areas of the position in terms of if you're going to transition your play from defence to attack, and then obviously if you want to make something of your attacks, particularly if you're playing maybe longer balls like we might do in Europe occasionally, if you've not got someone who can hold it up, or if you're not playing close enough to that player to allow, because Dessers can flick the ball quite well. He's good at doing smaller passes, getting the ball and passing it, but he can only really if he does it relatively quickly. It's like I think it was Ricky that said, he can't really hold the ball. And for someone that he looks like he should be relatively strong, he doesn't actually seem to be all that strong one-on-one, and that holds him back. So I think for me, if you had that 6 that could maybe, and more importantly, an experienced one, we've got quite an inexperienced midfield, and I think having an experienced 6 that would recognise that gap when it opens and look to fill it, or get a defender to push up or someone else to pull back, and maybe just orchestrate the team a little bit better using their experience. I don't even think it's so much the quality, it's the experience to recognise when the thing is the issues are coming up, and then orchestrating people around them to fix it. And then in terms of the striker, it's just we need someone that's more consistent, more lethal, and then if we're going to play the system we're playing, that can hold up the ball. So that can come, again, I think experience is good for that too. But you can get that from anything. So I think those kind of two things, getting players in those positions that can really affect the game, and looking to address the problem of these gaps, are the two things that could help make the formation work as it is with the players that we've got. If you could add that, and then the third thing would be to play someone better in the 10 position. But I think we've already got the options to do that when our injuries are back. If you've got Cortez to play on the left, then you can push Varane in. So I think that one's solvable with the tools we have, whereas the other one is going to need action in January.
Absolutely. And Ricky, James Tony's posted, and should Diamonde be further up the field? I suppose Diamonde's probably been one of these ones that has sort of been crammed into a system, and probably one of many players that seem to be put into a system that just isn't working for him. And I think we've seen a threat from Diamonde from areas outside the box when he first signed. Do you think he could be pushed up further forward? And if so, do you think you've currently got anyone that could come in and play the number 6 as it stands, at least until January?
Well, if you're going to play a 4-3-3 system, then you could be playing with Diamonde a little bit further forward from Raskin and Barron, not in the 10 role, but just as a solid 3. Before Lundstram sort of came to the end of his sort of career, the Seville era, Lundstram sort of sat in. It was a great holding midfielder, Lundstram, and he kind of split the two centre halves. There was a lot of times where he was that final man, left and right, the two centre halves, allowing the fullbacks to go forward. Now, we, rightly or wrongly, didn't ever really replace Lundstram. And I know we were all desperate to get him off the wage bill, and he was getting to that age where he was probably, we've seen the better of him. But the 55 in the Seville, I mean, Lundstram is fantastic in that role. And I think somebody like that, Stephen Davis is just, we're never going to get him again, are we? But somebody like that who can sit and protect, but it only takes the one moment. We've got 2 doing that. And sometimes I just think at Ibrox, why are we sitting up with 2 for the, your lesser teams at Ibrox? And again, it's so frustrating to watch. It's boring. We need to take that little bit of a gamble and utilise the players that we've got. Diomande, yes, Kev, can he play a little bit further forward? Absolutely, and I don't think I just think everybody's just petrified at the moment of losing the ball in the middle of the park because, as Doug alluded to, we just seem to be wide open when the ball breaks down, and teams are just coming at us. You know, whether it's the two centre halves are too spread and are not close together. I don't know. I don't sit and analyse. These analysts do every single game once the games are over. But these people have paid a lot of money to come up to reasons why we're susceptible to coming in. I brought it in another day there. We played Hibs, who are either bottom or second bottom of the league at the moment, and they were the better team at Ibrox. 18 shots on goal against us. That's not good enough. It might be Hibs, but this is Rangers at Ibrox, and so when they analyse that game, where did they then sort of tighten things up to stop that happening again? And I don't think they have done. And this is why, for me, I think Clermont has got till. I did say to that game next Wednesday, if he gets beaten that semi-final the following Sunday at Hampden against Motherwell, then for me, I don't want him in the other club. I don't care if we keep on sacking managers. We cannot keep on continuing as we are, as I said on Monday. I want Clermont to succeed. I do. But at what point do you say, guys, where's this going? You have to, and again, I brought it on Monday and apologise for any sort of listeners or viewers who's listening Sunday. Why did Bennett and the crew or the board merit or feel the right to give Clermont an extension at a period of time where there was no success? That was a massive mistake for me. And now we're in this kind of situation where if we do have to let the manager go, we'll get this extra money we have to pay to cancel his contract, and that's down to Bennett and the board. Another bad mistake, bad decision, and they have to be held accountable for it, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't think many people will disagree with you, Ricky, and I think people will probably latch on to Bennett's comments that he made where Rangers can't keep sacking managers every October. Which, listen, I think in essence he's right. We genuinely can't afford to just do that every single year, and if you want some stability, you need to stick with someone. I think that probably doesn't give up the argument, though, that you stick with the wrong person if things just genuinely aren't working. I think the sort of lack of style and identity is really clear to see. And although Clermont goes on around, it's going to take time for new players to bed in. I think when you maybe compare that to Aberdeen, who brought in a horde of new players, they clearly have a clear style, they're performing well. So yeah, I think he's probably had enough time where we should really get a good understanding of what we're trying to do with and without the ball, which we're probably not seeing at the moment. So yeah, no, you made a good point, Ricky. And Ross, Ricky makes a point. He mentioned about if you played a 4-3-3 system. Do you think there's a system that we should look to play that's maybe a bit different from what we're currently doing and maybe more suited to the current group of players that we've got just now?
I mean, I probably would agree if you're insisting on playing one guy up front. I mean, people probably of the generation above me would just say 4-4-2, big guy, wee guy, two guys out wide, solid spine of the team, and that's you sorted, and we'll win everything domestically, which is it's a valid point. But when we've only got one guy up front, then you have to play one guy up front. But I think we've only got we've got guys there that could play a similar style to the Gerrard 4-3-3. The very compact 4-3-3 that at times I know we've seen people talking about Clam. We want Gerrard back for this, that, and the next thing, and that's fine if that's what you think. But at least with his team, everybody knew what they were doing. They knew how to do it. They kept solid. They kept compact. I think if you had a 4-3-3 with Diomande, Raskin, and Barron, you could have that. But what you need to do then is have wide guys that can come in and two fullbacks that can go. Excuse me. They can go out the way. And I don't think we have that completely at the moment. You would need to, again, buy guys. We don't have enough to play that. But like I say, we've just got too many guys that can't do enough roles. No matter what formation we play, we're going to have to probably play somebody in a position they can't 100% play. And that's down to the recruitment. That's down to the manager, that's down to directors of football or lack of directors of football, the chairman. We can go on about everything that's wrong at the moment, and we could be here all day. I just seriously think that there's bigger issues than just Clement picking his formation. But if he's insistent, he doesn't want to change it, then it doesn't really matter, because it's not going to change, and it's probably like Ricky said, he keeps making the same mistakes over and over, and it's probably eventually the bits of it that he can control. If he doesn't change it, it's going to probably cost him his job.
Definitely. And Doug, I suppose if you look at the 4-3-3 formation, if that was one that Clement was to try and go for, do you think we got the options up top? Because I think when I think 4-3-3, I probably like a bit of pace on either the left or right winger, which probably is something that when I'm looking at it just now, we seem to be really lacking, especially with Cortez and Matondo out. Do you think it's important to maybe have someone with a bit of pace up top? Because clearly we lack that at the moment. Or do you think we have players just now that can come in and fit a 4-3-3 system?
I think that's the problem with the 4-3-3. I mean, I think there's a lot of good that can come from that, but the problem is that it fixes some of the issues with our midfield, but I think it would exacerbate some of the issues that we have with our attack, namely the lack of pace. Clement's system as it is needs to have a decent amount of pace from the wingers, but we're missing that from the wingers as it is, and I think you would need that even more so in the 4-3-3 as well. So it would potentially work if players like Cortez and Matondo were back, and you could bring in McCausland as well. But I think you're still kind of running that risk. I think we've broadly got the players to. We've broadly got the players to play the formation that we're playing, but not necessarily the style. You could make some adjustments and potentially a few bold decisions. And I think that's something that it's been a criticism of a few of our managers, that their inability to make bold decisions. That comment normally is revolved around the right back position, and continues to do so. But we have seen him start to experiment a little bit. He's been bringing on Casemiro and putting him in the right back and pushing Tav up, which is something a lot of people have talked about in the past, to make use of his creative aspects while not needing to worry so much about the defensive ones. That doesn't really fix the pace issue. Obviously, one of the concerns about Tavernier has been the sort of drop in pace, so it doesn't really necessarily fix that. One sort of out of the box thinking ideas that I've kind of been thinking about recently was the potential to play Hadji in the 6, specifically beside someone like Barron, although you could probably do it with Raskin as well. I think with your 6, you want to have someone who's a good tough tackler, as well as the ability to pass the ball really well. And I think Hadji certainly has the latter, but potentially not as much the former. But if you play him beside a Barron or a Raskin who can do the tough tackling, then you could potentially get the best of both worlds from what we have right now, because he's certainly got the passing range and ability to pick up the ball from the centre backs, turn on it, and immediately see in front of him on the pitch everything and everyone, and I think have the ability to make passes, whether those are cross-field passes, short passes and moves, or like we saw against St Johnstone, sort of incisive passes that cut straight through a team's defence. So I would kind of like to see him try something like that, a little bit out of the box thinking. Whether Hadji would be up for it, I don't know, but it's surely going to be better than not playing at all. I'd like to see him maybe just try some new things, because I think that's the biggest problem, is people are just seeing the same players trotting out time after time, making the same mistakes. So if he at least was to try some new things, could even be playing some of the youngsters as well. That's something else he could go for. I think that would give him a little bit more leeway with fans, because at least they'd see something different. They'd see him trying something rather than just this sort of doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
Yeah, I suppose it's an interesting comment about Hadji. I know a few people will be in comments. I can see Paul's posted a comment saying Hadji can't tackle. But I think if you think about it, in these games where we probably are going to have the majority of the ball and we're looking for an extra creative spark in the middle of the field, I wouldn't see anything wrong with giving it a try. Because, like you're saying, Doug, I think he's definitely got the capabilities to take the ball under pressure and look for a forward-thinking pass. And I think when you are playing against teams, specifically probably the bottom six of the SPFL, we should be dominating the ball. We should be looking to try and create chances and probably not needing two tacklers on the pitch or two holding midfielders. I think that was probably a criticism that Gerrard got a lot, actually, especially at the beginning, where I think he tended to go for two sitting midfielders all the time when there really wasn't a need for it. And I think that's what can end up leading to like the slow, predictable play that we can end up having. And just following on, so Ricky, I'll come to yourself. Doug makes an interesting point just about maybe looking at some of the youngsters. I thought it was quite interesting last night. Lovelace had a great first half with the B team. And from what I've seen online is that there was a conversation had at half-time with first team management to take Lovelace off. And then that then followed the presser today when asked about it, that he has advised, or that he's mentioned that Lovelace is going to be a part of the squad tomorrow. Do you think he could be a solution to that sort of left-hand side, maybe letting Bajrami coming back into 10 where he should be? And does he give you that option off the left or off the right if he wants to go for a different option, Cherney?
Well, he's not going to learn anything unless he tries it, boy. I mean, I've been saying in this pod for several weeks now that Bailey Rice and Lovelace should be in that squad. The guy is an England under-17 international, or he was when he was at Millwall, came to us, and he's filled out the England setup now, which is a very talented group. All their age groups are all very talented at this moment in time. He was one part of that group. He came to us, and he can't get anywhere near our sort of first team. Yes, he's had a couple of serious injuries, but you know the guy's a powerhouse. You know, obviously very talented. He wouldn't be an under-17 international. So yes, he's somebody I think who we could utilise his youth and exuberance. And of course, the fans are going, if you go and make as many mistakes as you want, you know, he's up top, the fans aren't going to get on his back because the fans will give him the time, whether that's him or whether it's Bailey Rice or whether it's any of the other youngsters. We want to see homegrown talent seen a pathway so that we can then get these boys through. And if we do earn us some money down the lane, that's the whole idea of the academy. And if we can keep them, fine. But, you know, the other sort of a good side of it is if we do move on, then we get some money for these boys, rather than we sort of take them through our academy and then they move on and have careers elsewhere and make money. You know, there's a new, a few handful of lads out there you could sort of mention in that sort of position we've lost out in. Billy Gilmore being the sort of the obvious one. But going back to the formation, Doug, I think, you know, the 3-5-2 could be something to be looked at. And we've got three reasonably decent centre-halves. That then allows Jeffty and Tav to do their stuff down. And Jeffty's got quite a bit of pace in him. So Tav and Jeffty can then be those kind of wingers. Yes, I know they're not as fast as like Cortez or Matondo, but they give you that width nonetheless. And then it allows you to sort of compact the midfield a little bit easier with the number 10 sticking closer to Dessers as the 3-5-2. Because as much as Dessers is taking a batter at the moment, the lad is on his own. He's not getting anybody near him because that number 10's not sticking to him. And it just looks as if Dessers just looks, well, he is awful. But, you know, you need to try and, if you're going to play him, get him involved and get somebody close to him because the guy is getting hung out to dry and he's a centre-half stream to play against. He must be. So, come on. Has the tools. He's got the personnel. He's got to tweak that. And if he doesn't, his stubbornness will cost him.
And it's interesting you're mentioning about the 3-5-2, Ricky, because I think people probably cried out for that for years. I think especially with the attacking threat that Tav, I'm going to say once posed, whether it's difficult to judge whether he is just getting on a bit and we've maybe seen the best of Tav, or maybe just with Clement's formation and setup, he just doesn't allow Tav to press forward the way he used to previously. I think it would also cover off the defensive frailties that Tav's offers up as well, especially in challenging games. And on top of that, you would maybe get to see that sort of flat three in the middle that you were mentioning with maybe a Raskin, Diamondi and Barron playing all together on that midfield three. And Ross, coming to you, just thinking about that sort of 3-5-2, do you think that's something that could work for us?
why not? I mean, like you say, that's probably we've got more ability to play it because we've got more guys that can fit it. I always remember, fun enough, like I was talking about. I remember when Gerrard first came in, we were talking about how we had these wonderful attacking fullbacks in Barisic and Tavernier at the time, and we could play it, and we're like, this is amazing. We've got two guys up front, and we played Motherwell at Fir Park. I don't know if anybody remembers it, with a 3 each game. And it was rotten, and it was absolutely awful. We'd laugh at Morelos up front, and we were just like, it was a disaster, to be brutally honest with you. Not to say it would be, but I think that if you're kind of fixing a lot of the problems that we have currently with the squad, we're talking about the isolation of Dessers being run through the middle. You do fix that. There's obviously drawbacks to it. I think it can be a little bit too negative, and I think when you get 5 guys sitting across, they can almost get in each other's way, especially the 3 in the middle, if they're not able to move around properly. But if you can coach into them the correct way to play it and how to move when one side attacks, like if the left-hand side, we're talking about Jeffy. Jeffy is the more attacking of the fullbacks at the moment because he's got pace and energy to burn. How the team shifts to support that, and if you can make that work, then why not? Why not look at it? Why not try something different? Why not put a different player in? Like we're talking about Lovelace. Is he the answer or not? We don't know because he's never had the shot. He's never had the try. There's a comment from Paul talking about that he might be out of contract. Why would they want to stay? Give him the opportunity to earn. If he comes in, plays well, can get a new deal, then we could really be onto something. But young guys are coming in, and why would they want to come to us? Because we don't give anybody a chance. Bailey Rice is the other one. He's the next. He's meant to be really good. For the small bits 15, he looked all right. But we don't know because he don't get a chance, and he just chooses to persist with the same stuff. And to say copy what Dougie said, insanity is the definition of doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. We've been doing the same thing over and over, and how can people be surprised if it gets any different? Let's be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Aye, I agree. And Curry's posted in there, so not sure why you're discussing tactics. As far as Clement is concerned, we are wrong, and his tactics and systems is working, i.e. nothing will change. I know when I listen to his presser, I think it's probably just typical of a lot of modern day managers now. I think they tend to have a set style and a set way of playing, and they will believe on it, and they'll die on that hill. I think from my perspective, and I don't know if you guys will agree, I'll ask you, I think it's fine with managers sticking to systems if results aren't there. However, you need to see something. You need to see some level of progression. You need to see chances created consistently, not having poor goals conceded on a consistent basis. What's your thoughts on that, Doug? Do you think he's right to stick with his system, even though it's not working, on the hope that it might in the future? Or do you think he should be looking to be a bit versatile with what he's trying to do?
It's like you say, if you can see improvement or you can see that it's almost there, you're battering the door down and it was just unlucky and Kelly got a goal, then, you can be more understanding about it. But I think the problem has been that it's this feeling that of repetitive mistakes over not just his reign, but multiple reigns of manager. and it's not just down. I think there's more to it than just the philosophy as well. I mean, talking about like the 3-5 or the 5 at the back. I mean, I'm a fan of that system in general, but I don't know if it addresses our main issues. I think that more solidifies your defence, and our defence is actually all right. On the whole, I've actually been saying it for years, because people have criticised our defence for years. Whereas on the whole, I think defensively we've generally been decent. It's attack that we've consistently failed. We don't take our chances, or we don't create enough chances. But primarily, we don't take our chances. There's a lot of talk about like our set pieces, for example, and how we don't seem to ever score. And again, we had 2 of the best players in the country in terms of putting balls in Barisic and Tavernier, and they would put good quality balls in time and time again, but we weren't finishing them. There would be wild heads over. We wouldn't be getting to the ball right. So it's things like that are the main concern for me. Again, I don't mind them sticking with the system if I'm seeing kind of like you see these marginal gains, or there have been times where it's looked like it's been improving, but then it's almost been a bit of a 2-step forward, 1 step back feeling. The moment we seem to get a little bit of momentum, something like the Kelly game comes up. So I think it's still early days. So I mean, I can understand why he maybe doesn't want to throw all his ideas away quite yet. If you kind of think of it from his perspective, he's come in, taken over a team that wasn't his. He's then gone to the summer. He's shifted, a third of that squad out of the door. A lot of them being the experienced old heads and players that had been there for the longest. So he's gotten rid of the old. He's brought in a lot of brand new young players, developing players that are going to need time to grow. And he's trying to implement a system. He's not got as many players as he wanted. He's not got as many players as he needed. So from his point of view, he could probably rightly be sitting there going, well, it's I'm only a transfer window into this. It's not my system that's wrong. I just don't have all my tools yet. And from that perspective, you could argue that it would be fair to give him the time, to give him the January window and to the end of the season to realise what he's trying to do. But again, it'll come back to he's going to have to be making more of a better fist of it in terms of when those chances come up, like we had against Kilmarnock to close that gap. He has to close that gap. There has to be a time, if not in the broader scheme of things, then in terms of his in-game management, he has to go, right, this is now about, he hit 60, 70, 80 minutes in that game. He has to be going, right, this is not about nothing but getting the win now. Doesn't matter how. We'll kick them off the park if we have to. We'll play ugly football. We'll abandon all the principles. It's about winning the game and getting the points. And he has to realise that, because if he doesn't make at least that concession, then he will find himself out the door rather quickly.
Absolutely. And Ricky, just before I move on to yourself, just while I've got everyone's attention, if everyone can subscribe, like the video, leave comments as everyone always does. And probably just one additional one is if everyone can head over to the Rangers Journal page on Facebook and give it a like, give it a follow. If you want consistent Rangers updates across all your social media platforms, then yeah, get involved on the Facebook page too, guys. Thank you very much. And Ricky, I'm just going to touch on a point that Dougan made just around the defence and how that's performed reasonably well in recent times. I think we picked up a good number of clean sheets. I think question marks around Proper have sort of risen again after the weekend, and some people looking for the introduction of Balogun coming in. Are you on that same page? Do you think we need to make any tweaks to the defence, not just with Proper, but just anyone across the back four?
No, Doug makes a good point about goals against. We've actually been reasonably sort of comfortable there. But a lot of that's to do with the fact that we've got a fairly decent goalkeeper as well. Again, going back to Clement, there's no plan B with him, and that's the difference. On Sunday, every single substitute that he took off, he put on a like for like. There was nothing. And this is, the fans are not stupid. There's no tweaks. There's nothing at all for us to go. And this is where I have to disagree with Doug. He isn't going to get the time. Yeah, he has to change the formation, the style of play, or the system or something at the 60-minute point. Not just bring on fresh legs. And these Kilmarnock players are loving it. You're not challenging anybody on that park at all. All you've done is brought on fresh legs. So for me, Clement needs a plan B, which he's so stubborn, and he won't change his system, and that stubbornness will eventually take its toll on him. Of that, I've got no doubt. But going back to the defence, Proper again, FC20 captain before he came to us, finished third in the Dutch league, doing really well this season again. So he came to us with a good pedigree, and he just seems to be a normal player. So is that again down to the manager? And again, I'm being very, very critical of the manager, but how come these players can't play in the same kind of flamboyant system with the previous sort of sides? And if you look at Ben Davis, it's in the media today, down at Birmingham, playing out his skin. Is there something wrong with the way our management are setting up our team and teaching, coaching these lads out of how to play football. There's something drastically wrong with these people can move on and have a good career elsewhere outside Ibrox. Sometimes I just question the system that we have and the people. Klopp, I think nobody can argue, is doing a fantastic job. We get the manager bounce with Clement when he first came in, won the League Cup last year. But as I said before, this year, apart from 2 games, we have been boring and dire, and we've not been playing well at all. And it's now the middle of October, and the punters, the fans will not allow this to go on. So Clement needs to get his finger out, or he'll be shown the door. Whether we can afford it or not, he will go, because the fans will make sure he'll go.
Mm-hmm. And I think that lack of ability in a plan B is what's been detrimental to Clement. But probably if you look at his predecessors, probably in the league so much, I think that there's a comment left there by John. I think Gio switched his formations incredibly well in Europe, and I think that's what helped us get to Seville. I think you mentioned it earlier on, Ricky, with the John Lundstrom dropping in to form a back 3, I think was pivotal in helping us get through to the final. But I think he probably didn't have a plan B as such when it came to the SPFL, and I think that's where Clement seems to be having the same sort of problems. I think when you're coming up against a stubborn back 4, back 5, even in a lot of occasions, is where he seems to be dropping down. But potentially maybe in Europe, this system that he's wanting to play will make a difference. And Ross, coming to yourself, focusing on the attack, do you think can you expect any changes tomorrow in that sort of front 4?
I don't think there will be, because we don't have the bodies to change it properly. I know we've been talking about Lovelace. I don't think he's going to throw a young guy in like that. I think Dessers is the only guy there. I still don't think Eggman's ready to lead the line for us properly. Bajrami, he's been the big money signing, but he's getting played at a position to accommodate the fact that Cortez and Matondo have got knees like chocolate, and Václav Černý is the only right winger he seems to like. I don't know. Ross McCausland's been on the bench. He seems to have I know he said that he did say a bit of a knock on the international break, but if he's on the bench, then he must be fit to play. So I don't see why we can't even change it a bit and play McCausland on the right. So you don't have that predictability of Černy's going to come inside, McCausland can go outside on his stronger foot, or as he showed against Malmo, can come inside and hit it with his left foot. He said himself that he's been practicing that. So why would you not want something with a little bit of unpredictability? We're talking about no plan B. We're so predictable. Change it up. But still Bucharest are going to come to Ibrox, and they probably know how we're going to play, because it's how we played for the majority of the season. If you go and you throw a curveball out there, they're not going to know how to prepare. They don't know how to prepare for it in an adequate way. So if you come in and you say, for a change, we're going to play, let's play Fraser. If you want to, let's play Fraser at left back. Let's play Jeffrey further up. Let's move Bajrami in and sit him closer to Dessers. Let's have something different. Why not? But because it's so predictable, we know what's going to happen. We know it's going to be slow. It's going to be turgid, and we're going to struggle. And let's be honest, we can probably beat them. Well, say we can beat them. Of course, we can beat them. But it's not going to matter in the long term for them, because like we're talking about, they're focusing on domestic games, whereas it's just not. It's just become sad the way it's all came. That it's just so predictable.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you look at there's plenty of options with the current fitness of the squad that we could look to change. I think that there's definitely an option where we could explore Igamani out left. I think when we have seen him coming off, he tends to drift out wide anyway to pick up the ball rather than stay central. We could look at that. We could look at McCausland, like you were saying, Ross, or we could even look at a Lovelace. I think there's definitely options there to try and change up that front 4, to try and add something a bit different. It's just whether Clement's going to be able to do it. And just to wrap up, guys, I'm going to go through each of these. I'm looking for predicted result for tomorrow, as well as who do you think will be the most important player in the squad. So, Doug, go with yourself, mate.
Well, like I say, I want to be optimistic. So there's a kind of few similarities with the Malmo game. If you look at our history with Stoke Bucharest, it's not the best, but most of our games with them are quite a while ago now. So we are favourites to win. We're at home, so I think the cards are on our table. I would like to see Egerman come in, but perhaps play him as on the wing, maybe put him on the left and bring Barami into the centre, because I think his movement could be quite good. As a result, I'm going to say 2-0 Rangers. I think we need to go in to show the fans a reaction to the previous game. We need to go in with confidence. We need the fans to get behind us. I think they're going to be confident to come in and just have a hit. I was looking at their sort of likely starting 11 based on who's been actually playing as opposed to who they're telling us will play. And if you look at their kind of front six in terms of midfield and attackers, only one of them has no goals or assists. So they've got goals and assists all over their team right now. They've won, I think, their last something like 5 or 9 in all competitions. So they've won the last 4 away, I believe, as well. So I have every reason to believe they'll come into the game confident and feeling like, you know what, let's go for this. We might as well. We've won our first 2 games. Let's have a crack. So I think we'll have a game in our hands, but we should have the quality to be able to handle it. Again, being a home game with a crowd behind us. So I'm going to say 2-0. I'll say Egerman to score his first goal if he plays, and a Tav penalty, because I'm always rooting on a Tav penalty.
Perfect. Ricky, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'm with Doug. I think we'll win 2-0 as well. But what I'd like to see is for us to be a little bit more compact, be a little bit more aggression, quick flowing football if we can. Stop this slowing everything up, as I mentioned earlier on. But the one thing for me, I think is key for tomorrow is we need to get somebody closer to Dessers, help the lad out. We cannot keep on allowing him to be isolated as he is because he just isn't good enough. So give the boy a bit of a hand, get somebody close to him, and I think we'll be the fruition of that. But if we just leave him isolated again, we're just going to end up here the following night slating him again because the boys get nobody assisting him at all. So the number 10, whoever that's going to be, or that system, get somebody next to Dessers, or at least help the boy out and play off him and see how that goes. But compact is key to me. Working as a unit up and down, working together. So European night, certainly a lot better history than what our domestic football is late anyway. So yeah, I think, I'm Doug, 2-0 Rangers.
Perfect. Last but not least, Ross, what about yourself?
I'll end my negativity with some positivity. I think if we come out and, like you say, if we come out and we play with a bit of aggression, a bit of tempo, and a little bit of heart, and a bit of belief in that, we're Rangers and it's Rangers Thursdays that we all love, and we're playing a team that we can beat easily. If we do that and we take our chances, there's no reason why we can't win by 3 or 4. I think we can win by 3 or 4 if we do those things. Absolutely. And I'll say 3. I'll say 3-0 just to be different. And I'll say Dessers will get a goal. And we've not had a Tav penalty for a while. Doug's right. We've not had a Tav penalty for a while. We're overdue one. I'll take a Tav penalty and an Eggman goal as well. I like the idea of that. He's due one. So that's how I'll say it.
Perfect. And for what it's worth, I'm going to go 3-1. Again, just to be a little bit different. I was going to go 2-0.
2 negative. 2 negative. Saying we'll concede 2 negative.
Do you know, I didn't think we were going to concede until Doug shared his stat about the goals and assists coming from everywhere from Bucharest. So I'm going to change it up. I'm going to go 3-1. We will concede. I think probably Barami for me.
Thanks for giving me the blame there.
I think for me, Barami will be key. I think he's going to get more space to operate, and I think he can cut defences open with his passing. And hopefully we're able to be clinical enough to take these chances. So just to close off, guys, go around the room, say your goodbyes. Ricky, thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's been nice chatting, and I just hope I'm back on here on Monday with a smile on my face and being a lot more positive than I have been in the past couple of days because we're as low as it's going to be. But I'm optimistic tomorrow night. But thanks for the chat tonight, guys. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Cheers,
mate. And Ross, thank you for coming on.
Pleasure. It's always good. Apologies for the tickly throat. It's been catching me today, but it's been fun. It's been a little bit therapeutic. I think every time I come on, I always say it's therapeutic, but I think sometimes that's all we need. And good win tomorrow. That's all we want. Good win tomorrow.
Definitely. And as always, Doug, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for the guys for the chat, the folk in the comments for putting everything in, and to Premier VBN for sponsoring us. Just thanks to everybody. And hopefully tomorrow night will be thanking Rangers for the result.
Perfect. And last thing for me, guys, is please again just remember to like, subscribe, and head over to Facebook and give us a follow on there. But on that note, just remember every night is a Rangers Journal night. Thank you.